Hey, everybody, welcome to this episode of Real to Real Talk. I am Sergio Barrera, and it is time once again to talk all things movies. And there's a cat right here, so I'm messing up my intro. But as always, welcome Paul Britton, who's going to talk movies with us. Man, George really threw me off. Paul, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I thought you were talking about me being the cat. Yo, this cat is ready to talk movies.
Is ready to talk
I am
movies.
hep, man.
Yeah. So welcome. And gosh darn it, I guess George is going to be on this week's episode.
Love it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So here we are once again, Paul. Time to talk movies. We've got some reviews this week.
Yes.
That are going to be very interesting to talk about.
Yes.
And we're going to take a look at another comparison contrast.
Yes. Yes.
We had the opportunity to do that a couple weeks ago, and now with a very sort of unexpected film, I think.
Yeah.
We're going to do the same. So a lots to cover this week, and I'm excited to do so. So
I really quickly need to say that between Amazon, Hulu, Paramount Plus, and everything, there were 1, 2, 3, 4. There were 5 movies released last week. There are literally those services are releasing 0 movies this week. You people need to get your shit together. You're not helping yourselves by all releasing weekend movies the same weekend and the next weekend be like, meh, we'll take it off. You know,
I mean, normally we would be like, well, let's take a break, but we got roulette. So I was looking at that this past weekend, looking ahead, and I was like, what is happening?
No, F minus.
Yeah.
NG.
I want to say this before we even get to the movie that this is related to, Paul, because I don't know, I keep getting sadder and sadder every week. I sat in a 335 seat theater. I was the only person there, Paul. I kid you not. I'm talking this guy.
I know. No, I know. I mean, that's happened to me several times now.
Yeah.
Luckily, I got my son to come with me on Amsterdam, so I was really super happy about that. But
so was it just y'all two?
No, there were half dozen people outside of us.
It's something else.
It's sad. I'm just looking for Black Adam. Like I'm not at all excited about it, other than I want there to be a full theater. That's what I want.
Sure,
I want a full theater experience again. And if Black Adam's empty, I am just absolutely, my butt cheeks are puckered for Black Panther, because I mean, it's people have to start going to theaters, and I understand if you're uncomfortable with it. Please, just
right. No, I mean, people are making whatever personal choices they're going to make, but I think we said this last week that it looks like people are just more now in tune with the notion of like, hey, it'll be on my TV sooner than later. So because it's less than 45 days in some cases that we get.
True.
Yeah. So anyway, I just wanted to start there because it was one of those things where, as I looked across the scope of titles we're going to be looking at today, when you consider that only one of them was in a movie theater, I'm just like, I guess this is the new normal.
This is
this is where we're at. So
this is it.
But that's okay. That just means that this old guy has to adjust his expectations of what the movie experience.
And look, you and I are both
get any better. That's for sure.
That's true. You and I are both 100% guilty of coming in here, this very platform, and saying, yeah, you know what? I could have just waited for that to be released on streaming, though. So, I mean, double standard, yes, but
right. We sometimes cause our own pain.
Yes.
But that's the thing. I mean, can you imagine if the podcast was movies we waited to see? So, but anyway, so we are here then for this round of fun, and we're going to just get right to it, Paul, because this past week Hulu released their version of the movie Hellraiser.
Yeah.
And so we decided we were going to do a comparison contrast of these two films. 1987's Hellraiser, which spawned, I think, 7 movies in its franchise, if I remember correctly from my research.
I have seen the first 2. Okay. And I will flat out tell you, there's 7 too many of that.
So we start with the fact that, as per normal, these are not the kind of movies that I lean into.
You nor I. We're
true.
Similar on this.
And so I remember thinking, okay, so I finally get to do a checkbox on a movie that I've seen out there, and as I've grown older, I become more fascinated with the notion of like, okay, I'll finally watch it. This gave me a reason to. It's spooky season, and boy, you have to go in with the right. You have to go in with the lens of 1987. You know,
Yes. And not just in terms of special effects.
Well, but definitely in terms of
for sure. But
when you get to the end of the film, you're like, okay,
yeah.
but and this is where I wish I had a time machine that would allow me to go back to a showing back in '87, where back then theaters were packed for these kind of movies.
For sure,
this was like, I think the mid to late '80s, early '90s was like a boom for horror films. I mean,
bad, poorly constructed horror films.
Exactly. And so as we begin with looking at these two movies, to compare and contrast them, I was glad to have the opportunity to watch the first film. And I don't know, maybe I'm just older now, and the age of it, because what is that, 35 years? It wasn't scary. Like
it's not scary at all. Like,
I mean, it wasn't even
grotesque.
Okay. Yes.
What happened?
George happened. George happened. He managed to. He's trying to produce.
Okay.
He's trying to produce, and
leave it
so
to the humans.
He leaned on the keyboard, and
that's all
right. but yeah, it was
it's grotesque.
It's grotesque. Yeah, there's really not much more to it, because there weren't a lot of like what do you call it? Jump scares.
No,
like all of the traditional tropes of a horror movie weren't there.
It's a body horror. This is a body horror. This is a cringe. Oh my God, I can't believe I'm seeing this. But the problem is that, if seeing hooks get stuck into rubber skin isn't going to scare you with obvious fake blood, then you're not going to, you're not going to react the way that they're trying to hope you react to it. And I do not react to obviously rubber skin getting poked with obvious fake blood coming out. That's just not going to get me, and throw in just an incomprehensibly non-existent plot.
Oh my gosh.
And it's just, I saw this for the first time Halloween last year. Okay. So Hellraiser, I had no idea that they were doing a reboot. I think it was actually announced like a couple days after I saw this Hellraiser. Was the first Hellraiser was when they announced that a reboot was coming next year, which would be this year.
Okay.
I was like, that movie sucked. Like I watched it and I was like, that's not a good movie. Like, I'm impressed with the character designs.
Yeah,
like
sure.
I'm really genuinely impressed with the character designs. I'm not scared by any of them.
Yeah.
Some of them are really, really vile and gross.
Right.
Pinhead not being one of them. I don't know what the draw was to Pinhead. Like, Vagina Throat Lady is the one. If you're going to base a series off of one gross scary guy, it's either Vagina Neck Lady or it's I think they call him Butterball, the fat guy with no neck.
Oh, okay. See, I would have thought the Chatterer, but
the Chatterer is okay too. They brought him back though in the extended edition of the Lord of the Rings trilogy in the last movie. So,
good point.
So that was cool, but
that's hilarious.
Yeah.
With the first film, again, if you look at it through the lens of 1987, then I can see where the appeal was. Because, I mean, think about it. This movie did spawn such a lengthy franchise.
Yes.
And not in the way that, the Fast and Furious franchise. I mean, that only goes forward, not because people want it, but because they refuse to stop.
Right.
Hellraiser, I think, had a fan base
right.
that really wanted these kinds of films, right?
Yeah.
And so, I understand its cult status. I understand that it's kind of an iconic horror film.
Right.
But I don't know that I would even call it a horror film. It was just gross. It was just,
it's a body horror.
There's no story.
It's a body horror movie. I will say, now that I think about it, now that I remember, the reincarnation of the idiot uncle, that scene is even like, exactly how they're doing it, but by
Sure.
today's standards today, even it's pretty fucking gross, and that's a really good scene. Like
Yeah.
I will say, for a scene in a horror flick, Reincarnation of Asshole Uncle is definitely high up there as far as
Sure.
like, oh, that's vile. Like, that is just vile.
And that's where, that's where the plot comes in, if there is one.
Right.
And then it just, I don't know, I don't think, I think what they did is they designed the makeup first for all these creatures,
For sure.
and then they're like, oh shoot, we need a
Clive
story.
Barker had ideas for creatures, and then they built a movie around the creature
because
designs.
man, the acting, it was
everything.
it
The
made me laugh on
everything
so many
is
different levels.
just not good.
Yeah. So
But then fast forward.
Yeah, so we fast forward, and Hulu has decided that, hey, it's time to remake this horror classic, if we can call it that.
Yeah.
And
honestly, it's let's reintroduce it to a new audience. That's what it is.
yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah.
And right away, right from the outset, I'll tell you that the flaw in this version is it goes too far in trying to create something of a story.
Interesting.
For me, there's really, really big flaws with this film that, once again, for myself, make it not scary or not cringy, or and the two big ones for me is it's too much story, way too much story.
Okay.
When you look at it from the lens of the first one.
Yeah.
And number two, the creatures were so stylized
Mm.
that I was like, okay, they look cool,
Mm-hmm.
but they're not scary.
Right.
Right. It was too clean.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Sure. I have to say, I appreciated that they explained some things in this one.
Sure.
Like, I appreciate the explanations existing for these events.
Right.
And I for that reason alone, it is a vastly superior movie for me. Vastly superior movie. Like, if somebody said, "Hey, I'm going to watch Hellraiser," and I asked which one, and they said 1987, I'd say, "Okay, I'll talk to you later." If they said 2022, I'd be like, "Okay, I don't think I have anything else. I'll sit down with you and watch it again."
So did you feel like it was more origin story-ish in that we got more insight?
Yeah, no, like, we know what we get an idea of what the cube is supposed to do, and we get an idea of the cube. Like, the cube has a purpose now. Like, it's not just this cube that, it's like the cube is doing shit, and I feel like this is all shit that was supposed they could have was absolutely part of the original movie that they just never bothered to explain at all. And if it wasn't, I appreciate them giving the cube some purpose. Now, I'm gonna hashtag spoiler alert right here on Hellraiser 2, Hellbound, I think it's called, Hellraiser 2. Like, they just take the idea of the specialness of the cube and just dump it out the window. Like, so in the first one, like, the cube is like this weird thing, and it's very unique. And in this first sequel, in Hellraiser 2, it's literally like there's dozens of these cubes, and there are dozens of these so these portals to hell. And you get that the one thing that they do build up is sort of like a backstory for the Cenobites, of which Pinhead is the leader. And so they show you a new Cenobite being born, type of thing, which is mildly interesting. But the fact that, like, there's a dozen of these cubes out and about, and they're having all these different people open, it's like, well, what, you took this unique special
the novelty
thing,
of it is gone.
But this movie, the reboot, really kind of brings in the special uniqueness of it. And also, I like the bad guy. I like the fact that there's somebody who's like, I am trying to tap in. I know what this thing is.
Yeah.
There is a mythology behind it. I am trying to tap into that, even though I probably shouldn't. And I like that. I don't know. Is it a great movie? No, it's not. Like, I'm not gonna, it's not making any of my top lists, top horror movies of the year, top movies of the year, top movies of October. But it was watchable for me, and I
Sure.
didn't mind it. Like
Yeah.
that's it.
Like I said, it wasn't horrible. I didn't. I mean, okay. I watched it and it was like, all right. Well, I wasn't scared. I mean, as much as I said about the makeup effects being so stylized and clean, I mean, they looked great.
Like she pulls out a pin from her
Right.
head. Like that was fucking cool.
Right.
Like,
Yeah. Moments like that are fantastic. But
yeah.
again, when and it's funny because I already kind of had a sense, and maybe this is wrong of me, but and I totally messed up by putting up the wrong logo. Whoops, sorry, Netflix.
Boy,
When I saw that it
should be
released on Hulu, I was like, oh, that's kind of a weird place to have this movie come out, But regardless of the fact, it's I was like, okay, all right. Neither one blew my mind.
Yeah.
But
Well, no, neither one blew my mind, but at least I did find one of them entertaining for anything more than, oh, this is Clive Barker, special effects, which is unique and interesting in its own way.
Sure.
I did like the second, like I like the reboot, not like,
okay,
oh my gosh, but it was good enough for what it was. It was good enough. For what it was, the original Hellraiser is still really bad. Like, genuinely unwatchably bad.
If you're gonna make me choose which one to watch again, if I were to, I would definitely choose the reboot. That's no doubt, doubt. So as you know, Paul, here on the show, we rate movies on a 5 taco scale. Movie can get as many as 5 tacos plus guac.
Yeah.
If you want to give it some love. So I'm gonna just start by telling you that for myself, despite all the things I said, I have to be fair.
Yes.
And I'm gonna give it, if I can find, there they are. I'm gonna give it 3 tacos.
Which one?
The second one. We're reviewing the second one.
Okay, we're reviewing the second one. Okay.
Since it was the new release.
Yes.
I'm gonna give it 3 tacos. I mean,
that's exactly where I am too.
Yeah, it's okay. I feel like giving it 2 would be unfair because it's my own personal, and I'm comparing it.
Yep.
So 3 tacos. Watch it. Check it out. I think it'd be a good, like, hey, Halloween's coming up. Find a movie to watch.
I was entertained, and it's not super scary, but like there were definitely moments where I was a little more scared than the original. Like, I don't know how to phrase it. I just want to say the original gets 1 taco for me. I won't flash it up. But it's just like, I just genuinely dislike the original one. It's just not good. You have to be into this genre in order to care at all.
Yeah. I wonder how much of it was, well, no, I don't think making it gorier would have been. I just don't, I don't know. It's hard to figure out how you could have made the first one better. Because if what they were going for was shock, well then, okay, good try. But maybe back then it was a whole different audience that was shocked by those kind of things. But
spend an extra month on a script. Like,
right,
don't
exactly.
Realize where your starting point is, and say we need this to make sense, and we need this to go somewhere.
Absolutely.
If you are into movies that literally go nowhere, then maybe you're all right.
Maybe that's the one for you.
So yeah.
All right. Well,
there's our Hellraiser conversation. By the way, I'm going to say this now up front. So we're doing this for Hellraiser right now because we're doing this for Hellraiser. The experience was so experiency for both you and I. We are not doing this for Halloween next week. Like, Halloween
no
is coming out next week.
Yeah.
We had a conversation before this episode. We just need people to understand and appreciate. We're not doing this again.
Yeah.
Like, this isn't, it's just not our bag. And I don't think that we would be able to do the whole Halloween justice.
Yeah. So. I mean, I think I'll, for my own self, I'll probably watch it just for the sheer, okay, I got to see what this is all about. But no, it's not. Yeah.
If you want to do an RQR on it, that's you.
We'll see. We'll see. All right. Well, that brings us to the end of our big opener, Hellraiser. We leave it to you. You decide, check it out, see what you think.
Yep.
And yeah, let us know. And here is the look at where you can do that. We'll be right back after this social media blast. We'll be right back with more Real to Real Talk. All right, welcome back as we continue our night here on Real to Real Talk. You got a chance to hear us talk about the movie Hellraiser and the movie Hellraiser. And now we're going to move on and we're going to get into what we like to call What the Hell Did I Just Watch? And Paul, when you sent me the title, I was like, oh my, let's get down to business. So I'll turn it over to you, Paul.
Okay. I don't know where to go with this. So
I love that that's how you start.
I look at that because honestly, I had an idea of where I wanted to go. And then I see the movie poster. I'm like, God, I wish that were the movie. All right. So, this movie starts out as a documentary, a faux documentary. Okay. So,
Sure.
But a really well done faux documentary where it's like, there's this movie. It's a not a haunted movie, but there's a cursed movie who anybody who watches it dies, becomes crippled, becomes bankrupt. Something terrible happens to all the people who end up watching this movie. Like there's only been one audience that has seen this movie. And it was like in a Prague movie festival or something like that. And the theater burnt down in the middle of the viewing of it. And like the firemen come in and say, the weird thing is that normally when there's a movie in a theater, it's like it starts in the projection room, but that wasn't the case this time because like all the fires were started in the audience. Like there were multiple fires started in the audience. It's like, oh my gosh. And then there's all these stories about the various people who have seen it, like all people who screened it for various festivals that either turned it down or wanted to bring it in, but the person died, and so it didn't end up going. So movie's been lost to time. Okay. But there's a lot of mythology around the movie, Antrim. Okay. And it is the deadliest movie ever made, deadliest film ever made. And then they make the mistake of showing the movie. Okay. So the thing is that, so the faux documentary leading up to the show, the exhibition of the movie, we'll call it like 20 minutes. Okay. About 15 minutes in, one of the people says, look, I have seen bits of this movie, and it's not like it's a really scary movie. Like the parts that I've seen weren't really particularly scary. It's just that there's a lot of imagery throughout that is calling on forces that I don't think the filmmakers understood what would happen if they called on these forces. And damn it, if the guy wasn't right, the movie's just not scary. Like it's just the story. The movie is a brother and sister go on a camping trip and start digging a pit, a hole to hell. They're trying to dig a hole to hell. And then they establish that during the documentary. And then you find out the reason why they're digging a hole to hell is because they had to euthanize their dog. Their mother at one point on the way home, like the kid says, will we get to see Scrappy? I don't remember the dog's name. Will we get to see Scrappy in heaven? And the mom says, no. Heaven's only for people who are good, and Scrappy was not good. And what? Yeah, right. So now wow. Yeah. So cut to sister and brother walking through the woods, and the sister says, the older sister, you know, significantly older, like sister's like 18, kids like 10.
Okay.
Sister's like, yeah, look, when we get down there, she'll be there, but you have to understand, we're not going to be able to bring her back. She can't come out of there. And he's like, I understand. I don't want to bring her back. I just want to be able to tell her that we love her and that I miss her. And she's like, okay. And so she has this book, and then it becomes that explains how to get to hell. And it becomes obvious relatively early on that the sister is playing this up to placate the kid, and that she is just going to kind of, you know, get him to think that they actually have dug to hell, even though like the pit never gets deeper than like 4 feet deep. And like the kid says, oh, we're in another level. Like, so there's like, apparently, you know, there's 7 levels that they have to get through. And like, you know, they go a foot, and he's like, oh, we're in another level. It's like, what? But then we find out that the whole scary part of the movie isn't them digging to hell, which, you know, you could probably, if you actually did this, make a pretty compellingly scary movie about it. Just go watch The House That Jack Built. A prior what the hell did I just watch? Entering. And but what it turns out is the scary part of the movie is in the wood, living in the middle of the woods out here are 2 cannibals. And and they have a smoker that is in the shape of Baphomet, who you can see here in the movie poster behind them.
Okay.
Like, the thing about the movie that stands out most to me is I want a badass Baphomet smoker. Like, this thing was huge and awesome. Like, I would totally smoke meat, not people. Like, they were using it to smoke people. I wouldn't use it to smoke people. Okay, I would definitely be using it to smoke like a roast of some kind.
Right.
I mean, it just I don't know. I like the if this is your premise, you need to go. This is where Hellraiser. This is where, like, if they had just made Hellraiser, like, this is where you put Hellraiser in, and you eliminate the pretense of any sort of story whatsoever, and you just flash nasty, gnarly, scary shit that makes you think, oh my god, this is definitely, you know, this is definitely a tainted movie because of the subject matter. The problem is that the way it's tainted is just they throw subliminal pictures like pentagrams and stuff up there every once in a while, and then subliminal like messages that are in Latin. I paused it and I was like, I'm not going to translate that right now. So, and it's just I just needed the movie to be mildly compelling, like just mildly compelling beyond awesome Baphomet smoker, you know, and and awesome. It wasn't, and yeah, so. Wow. And then the movie does end with the people explaining what all of the subliminal imagery that was flashed during the movie was. And like, and here's the thing is that if you're making this movie about like, the one thing shit, I'm sorry. Before they actually display the movie, they flash a warning card, and it says, warning, the distributors, producers, and exhibitors of this movie are not held responsible for anything bad that may happen to you from this moment forward. Be warned, you should, you know, and they keep that up for like a minute, and that's really cool. But again, you cannot then have just a completely underwhelming thing after. You've set the bar way too high for what you're actually presenting. There's not wow. So
well, there you go.
I really wanted to be disgusted and scared. I really wanted to be disgusted against.
How long was this film?
Oh, hold on, I got it up here. Yeah, an hour and 35 minutes. The actual the actual scary movie thing was like basically like 50 minutes, I think, something like that. It ended up being. I just
Yeah.
You have given yourself a license to go fucking nuts.
Right.
Like, you have literally given yourself a license to just be disgusting and terrible and really explore the space, and you don't.
Yeah.
And it's like, damn it,
Don't let you down.
why is there a kid? Like, don't. Why can't it be like two adults digging to the center of hell? And
Gotcha.
because there's only so far you can go with kids, man.
Right. No, absolutely.
You know.
Wow. I feel like this is one of those few moments where you're truly disappointed by the.
I was
by
so
the,
disappointed.
yeah.
I mean, come on, it's called the deadliest film ever made.
Yeah.
I was so. This was, by the way, this was a Tubi stumble upon. So like, just so we're clear, where I found this one, this was just stumbled upon it on Tubi, and man, it was really living up to it, and then it just was like, oh man, come on, just I should have known as soon as like the kid popped up onto the screen. Like I'll tell you what though, when the mom said no, she won't be in heaven because she wasn't good, I was ready for anything. Like that happened in the first 2 minutes of the movie, not of the movie Antrim.
The actual movie.
That happened in the first 2 minutes, and I was like, yes, that is a very solid start. Having a mom tell their kid that their dog's going to hell.
You pulled the seatbelt across, and you were like ready to.
I'm ready, and then it was just like. The hole needed to get more than 4 feet deep. Like they needed to get like 20 feet deep with this hole. Like, they should have at least hit groundwater at some point.
Oh man! All right. Well, I feel bad for you, but
no, it's all right. People should check it out. It's actually kind of funny. In the fact that there's a Baphomet smoker, but
I'll have to search for that online so I can see it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, week to week, you can find out what kind of weirdness Paul is watching. And so we invite you to make sure you stop by and check it out. So, Paul, thank you as always for bringing us some cool stuff here on the show.
Sure.
All right. It is time for this week's Real Alphabetical. The letter was K. The letter was L. Actually. Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. It was L. I made all the posters happen. So let's just be happy about that.
Yeah.
I work.
You do. It's all right. You work hard for this podcast too.
Well, yeah.
Yes.
The letter was L, not K. That was last week. But the movie was Love and Monsters. And man, golly, Paul, you keep hitting home runs.
Right?
This movie was pretty darn hilarious. It was.
My God.
I mean, from the opening frames, when you get the establishment of who Joel is, and it sort of builds.
Yeah.
To a point where you're like, oh, but then you realize he's the ne'er-do-well,
Yeah.
And just from that point forward, it really just plays out as a really, really fun movie.
Yeah.
It is not at all anything that I would have, if I walked through, if this were the old days of Blockbuster and I walked down an aisle and saw this title, I'd be like, no. If I scanned my movies on, Prime, no. But I would never have thought to watch it. Never would have thought to watch it, but I
knew you would like this one.
It was great. I mean, the introduction of the dog,
the
even the end where it leaves you kind of like, wanting more.
Very much, yeah.
It was fantastic.
Yeah,
I don't know how I missed these movies or what it is about them.
Well, this one was a pandemic slip through the cracks, 100%.
Oh yeah,
this one was 100% a victim of the pandemic, and it came out early, I want to say either late 2020 or early 2021. I don't remember which exactly, but it was like when they were first trying to get movies back into theaters, and it didn't go in theater, and then they did a very, very quick turnaround to Hulu, and they're just, the problem with streamers is there is just not enough opportunity for streamers to advertise beyond within their tiny space.
Right.
And they don't even advertise within their tiny space very well.
Yeah.
Like, if I am watching a movie, give me an advertisement. Give me like 2-3 trailers. Like, I don't want advertisements for Crest toothpaste.
Right.
I want trailers for movies you have coming out in the next 2 weeks. Not
Right.
2 weeks, 2 months. You know, if I am not looking for trailers for television shows, because if I wanted a trailer for a television show, I'd be watching a television show.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, and unfortunately they put most of their money in television shows right now, and so all the advertisements for their own shit that you get are usually television shows, and the movies just slip through the cracks. And this Love and Monsters is a perfect example of that, where I mean, it's this movie makes, you know, they released this movie at the end of August, and it would make 350 to 400 million dollars, because word of mouth, people would go see it, you know. But it's all right. Hopefully people are watching our podcast right now and they will go watch it, because it's one.
It's fantastic. It really, really is.
It's impossible to set expectations for this movie, by the way.
No, not at all. And the fun of it is just not only in its story and of course the humor, one of the, you know, the characters that you encounter.
Yeah.
I before we move out of this topic, I do want to say Michael Rooker continues to just be one of those guys that he can play the seemingly same character over and over and over in different movies.
Yep.
And it doesn't get old.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a guy who, the very first film I remember seeing him, and I'm talking about like a film I went to see on opening weekend and he was in it, was Cliffhanger. Sylvester Stallone. And then of course I encountered him when I picked up movies like you know, 8 Men Out, JFK. But since then he's gone from, you know, that particular role to just being this sort of hard-nosed character in everything he does. And it's all very similar, but yet number one, he continues to get work. I mean, his filmography is
it's extensive, 138 films and counting.
Yeah, and yet you don't get tired of him playing pretty much the same guy. So Michael Rooker's fan, and his turn in this one is just awesome. Him and his little counterpart. But yeah, no, great film. Check it out, guys. Love and Monsters, for the letter L, not K. For Real Alphabetical. And as always, Paul, you have me looking forward already to whatever M is going to bring. So thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Please don't say Monsters Inc. I've already seen it. So
Monsters University? No.
No. All right. That brings us to this week's slate of real quick reviews, and we've got a few for you. So we're going to start with a movie called Amsterdam. What a cast. What a cast. What a cast. Paul, you know me and my love for talkie films.
Yes.
You know me and my love for a good story.
Yes.
And interesting characters.
Yes.
And I gotta say, I'm still trying to decide how I feel about this movie.
Yeah, no. Today, as of right this second, I'm still not entirely sure.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. The reason is because it doesn't go anywhere.
It doesn't. It's too long.
It takes way too long to get anywhere, and it picks the wrong. Like, Christian Bale is just an absolute world treasure, and in this movie he's, you know, he chews up every scene that he's in, and he's in every scene. And I think that's the problem. I think the problem is that the more compelling characters that you can base a story around, like just strictly looking at characters you can base a story around, are Margot Robbie and John David Washington. And you know, and Christian Bale is, those are supposed to be a trio that are the central characters, but unfortunately it just ends up being Christian Bale and then these two other people.
Right.
And really there's way too much about what goes on in Christian Bale's life that overtakes everything else going on in the movie, and it's really tertiary to the story, whereas what's going on with Margot Robbie and John David Washington are central to what's going on in the movie. And I mean, I just don't care about Christian Bale's socialite wife at all.
Yeah.
And his family backstory, I just don't care. And that's a really big problem. Like, and that ends up being what happens is this movie just gets hunkered down and dragged down by so much other things going on that are just like, what?
Yeah. The overall, as this movie played out, again, the length of it was just too much. Everything was so slow.
Yeah,
And I hate that I feel. I mean, I hate's too strong a word. I'm disappointed that I feel this way because
sure.
this is a movie that doesn't equal up to the sum of its parts. There are some individual scenes and some work that's Taylor Swift in her few minutes is great.
Yeah.
Chris Rock in his role, great.
Anna
Rami Malek,
Taylor-Joy.
yeah,
Anna
exactly.
Taylor-Joy is
Oh
fantastic.
my goodness, she's
Michael
fantastic.
Myers, like
Yes,
bring Michael Myers back to do just stuff like this. And I
it,
would watch a movie. I would watch a spin-off movie with Michael Myers and Michael Shannon, just talking
yeah.
about watching birds and doing spy shit.
There were
Like,
movies within this movie that I would have rather seen.
yeah,
And,
big
and
time.
and so many times, like the chemistry between John David Washington and Margot Robbie is just phenomenal.
Yeah.
And so you get these gems, you know.
Yeah.
There's an entire portion with Robert De Niro that it's awesome. He's having some dialogue with the five, and you can tell that he's number one. He's just outclassing everybody in the room from an acting standpoint. But it's so poorly written that you're sitting there going, "We know where this is going." Like,
Yeah.
so much of it was telegraphed. And so what I guess what I'm saying is there are so many great individual performances
Yeah.
that don't mesh. They don't come together because
Right.
the script was so chaotic. You know, it was all over the place. And I'm disappointed because you can't dangle a cast like this in front of me and not deliver. And so
it does that. It just doesn't. It is an interesting artifact to watch. I
yeah,
don't know that I would ever revisit it though, just because uh, is the great stuff worth, because there is
muddling
some
through the
things
rest
that
of it.
are great. There are
Oh
some
yeah.
things that are genuinely great. Anna Taylor-Joy, genuinely great. There
So
are
funny.
parts of what Christian Bale is doing that are genuinely great. Again, Mike Myers, Michael Shannon, every second they're on screen
Oh,
is
fantastic.
genuinely great. But man, and there's an important story here. There
Yeah.
is the guts of this, which you don't get to for an hour. Like you have no idea what this movie is about for a full hour. It takes them an hour to get to
Right.
this is what this movie's about. And it's like, wow. I mean, it's like this is not, it just takes forever to get anywhere. And it's because David O. Russell was just like, look at how witty I can be. And it's like, well, you're not really all that witty.
It's not
But
that much. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, no, one of the performances that to me was so awesome. And Rami Malek is always he's always going to deliver good work. There was just something in how he carried that character and in the way in which he spoke that you're like, I think that was the most disappointing part, was that he got so little to work with.
Yeah.
And yet he was supposed to be this central character, you know.
Yeah.
And I think that I can literally say that about every single actor in this film, you know. And again, I hate when a performance like you said, Anya Taylor-Joy is wasted on a, you know, when you look at it from a big picture standpoint, because it's like, golly, like, and you know, these people signed on because of the work that's been produced by oh wow, you just said his name. I can't think of the director.
David O. Russell.
David O. Russell.
Yeah.
You don't get a cast like this together by accident, Paul.
Right.
And I just feel like a giant disservice was done to this group. And so I don't know who to fault. Is it the director? Is it the writers? Is it
No, it's definitely David O. Russell. He has a lot of control.
Okay.
You know, he has a lot of control. Yeah. And it just, yeah.
Yeah. This rating that I'm going to give you, Paul, may not make sense to you, but let me explain it.
Okay, go ahead.
Because I'm still going to land on 3 tacos for this film.
Okay.
Because different from you, I want to revisit it. And the only reason I want to revisit it is because there is part of me that's like, okay, maybe I missed something. Maybe And so when it comes to streaming, it's one of those movies that I'll probably be like, okay, I'm going to try this again. I don't know what's going to come out of it, but this movie had it could have easily gotten a 4 for me.
Mm-hmm.
It just didn't. It didn't deliver.
Yeah.
And when it was over, I was like, okay.
Yeah,
Well.
Unfortunately I gotta go 2 and guac.
Okay.
And just because it's just like it needed it falls short. And there are people out there who hate this movie, by the way. Like
Oh yeah,
I just need to acknowledge the hate and vitriol that this movie is garnering from people online and whatnot. I don't have that for this movie.
Yeah.
I am more disappointed because there was potential here, but
so much.
It just really wanted to focus on how witty and interesting Christian Bale was, rather than we have a really good movie with a lot of witty and interesting characters around Margot Robbie and John David Washington. And
it's why I find the movie poster so interesting. The one that I used and the one because there's so many. And I was funny in researching the movie posters. I thought to myself, what a perfect view of what I'm seeing, because there were all these great single shots of the different actors against the title card.
Yep.
This one right here, you literally see that for all that Robert De Niro brought to the film, like he doesn't belong in the front. This should be the 3 of them.
Yeah.
But frankly, the movie is for me in large part John David Washington and Margot Robbie. So, well, that's where we are. So, don't take our word for it. Check it out. Amsterdam is available in theaters. Please go, because no one is going. So, they're saying it could lose somewhere in the area of $100 million. Like, that was the last article I read. I'm like, and then I walked into the theater. I was like, I can see why.
It cost $100 million to make. Is that what they?
That it's going to lose upwards of. I don't know what the cost of it to make was, but it is, like literally. And the only reason I remember the seat count, Paul, is because as I walked into the theater, it's right there on the right side, because I go to the same theater every week, and 335 seat theater. Someone thought this movie was gonna hit in terms of the theater where they booked it, what hall they booked it in.
Right.
One person, this guy.
But
so,
I mean, you look at the tabs for the whole weekend, and it's not like there was another movie to put in that big theater.
No, I see what you're saying. Yeah, because that hallway of theaters was quite quiet.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that is Amsterdam. We're going to take a look now at a movie that is on. Where did we find it? Netflix?
Yes. This one's not on Netflix.
No, this one is. Luckiest Girl Alive.
This one is on Netflix. Yes.
Netflix. Big right there on the poster.
Unlike
the movie
Hellraiser.
Yeah, that's right. Hulu. Luckiest Girl Alive, Netflix premiere this past weekend, and based on a novel of the same name.
Yep.
Jessica Knoll, I believe, is the author who wrote this book. And she actually wrote the screenplay.
Oh, interesting.
Yes. I say that because one of the many flaws of this movie, in my opinion, is the writing.
I agree with you on that.
Paul, I'm really torn about this film.
Me too.
Because it covers the and I'll just take the heat. I'll say what I'm thinking, and if there's heat, I'll take it.
Yeah.
This is a movie that is trying to say things about topics that are extremely important in our day.
Mm-hmm.
And yet it manages to also be unbearably exploitative.
Right?
In how it portrays it.
I don't know if I'd use the word exploitative, but yes.
I didn't know how I didn't know how to I didn't know how to feel about it.
It's trying it feels the need to build a mystery without justifying the need to build a mystery.
Okay.
And what I'm saying by that is that early in the movie, you get a scene with a young Tiffany, goes by Annie as Ani. In her adult life, she drops the tiff and just goes anyway. Young Tiffany, early, like basically her first day in high school in this new super prestigious, super prestigious high school where, she's a scholarship student. She can't afford to go to this super prestigious high school, but because she is an excellent writer, she has gotten a special writer scholarship to go to this school.
Right.
Why they wait until the middle of the school year to hand out the scholarship, I don't know, but I'm not gonna, I won't dive it too far into that. But it's clear it's this, she missed the first 2 months of school and she's showing up into the middle of her freshman year. And not only is she an outsider, but she's even more of an outsider. And so, and her first assignment in her English class, in her writing class, the teacher praises her paper for mentioning that Holden Caulfield in oh, criminy, the stupid book that Holden Caulfield's in, Catcher in the Rye, is an unreliable narrator. And the thing that you need to know is that this entire movie is narrated by Ani. Okay. And so, and you and I have extolled extensively about be careful when you use a narrator.
Yep.
But if you are going to use a narrator, that's okay. There just needs to be a really good reason for it. And the really good reason for it is to build, in this case, is to build tension, to make you not like the narrator when there's really no reason to not like the narrator.
Yeah.
I do not know why this movie goes out of its way to make Ani unlikable. I don't get it. I don't understand it. I don't know what it's literally just trying to turn a heart-wrenching drama into a thriller, and it doesn't need to be.
I think that, and I think you hit the nail on the head, because again, I found myself, it drove me to the source material to read about the book and how the book was written, and so I didn't read the book, obviously, but this was a situation where you came out not able to sympathize for Ani, the adult character, even though things, and I'm not going to go into details, but things end up going her way.
Sure.
Almost too cleanly, in this guy's opinion.
Okay.
And yet I didn't feel any sense of satisfaction for her.
No.
Her behavior was, it was weird because, again, this movie is trying to make statements, but they're not driving you to like her.
Right. At all.
And not only is she saddled with and man, if you can't see the red flags from the outset with the guy that she's dating at the time, right?
Yeah.
It's like when you begin to understand why she's living the life she lives and why she is with who she's with, and when you get to the point where things are resolved, you want to feel like, yeah, this is a big moment. Like the narrator tries to convince you of that. But by the time that you get there, the tone has been so flat and so
she spends more time. She spends more time trying to convince you not to like her than she does trying to explain why she does some things that are unlikable. Like,
so, Paul, do you think this movie does better without that narration?
I
do. If you just
it does, only because I'm gonna be more likely to like
sympathize
her.
with her.
Yeah, like
exactly.
But they don't. But they're clearly making a conscientious decision to make you not like her. They want you to not like her.
And it's tragic because it counters the central message of this movie, which is, not only the result of the I don't want to say too much because not because I'm afraid to, but because it's trauma based.
Yeah.
It's central to the story.
Yeah.
But it steals that because of the way it treats its character. So I'm like, ugh.
And I understand why they're doing it. The key here, is to explain the isolation of somebody who has gone through trauma. Okay. Yeah. That's what they're trying to convey. They are trying to convey the isolation of someone who goes through trauma. I think you can do that without making the character intentionally or making the character unlikable when it's a character that should be likable.
Oh,
You
absolutely.
can have a likable character that is off and has problems and is a little questionable, like I'm not too sure.
Yeah.
But to make you literally sit there in the middle of the movie, be like, so they foreshadowed when they said that Holden Caulfield was an unreliable narrator. So we automatically have to assume that this narrator is
Different, yeah.
unreliable. And so what are they not telling us? And it turns out that there's nothing that they're not telling us, including all the horrible things that she thinks. And I don't think that she's this horrible. Like, I don't think she would be this horrible of a person. Like, it just, it's like,
Yeah.
and she does things that don't make any sense. Like, so, without spoiling anything, she's meeting with a director of a documentary, and she pretends to be the editor-in-chief of a magazine that she's clearly not the editor-in-chief of. And it's like, there's no way that the person who's making this documentary wouldn't know exactly what her position is and what kind of office she would have. So why are we having this phony tension about her using her boss's office? It's just weird. They make so many weird decisions in this movie that I don't get it.
Yeah. I will say, in trying to give some credit to the movie, Chiara Aurelia, who plays young Tiffany, what a performance!
For sure.
I mean,
And
man,
Mila Kunis even
sure,
is
sure.
fantastic. I love the performances. I just the writer and director make choices that I just don't understand. I don't understand where they're going.
There are some scenes that were well directed and well edited. But then there were others that, again, my use of the word exploitative, I'll stick by. It was just like, what are you trying to do?
Yeah.
So it was weird. It was just weird. I'm
Let's rate it. I think we've
I want you to go first because I don't know that I even trust my rating, but
I'm going 2.5.
Okay,
or
that's where I
not
was
2.5,
at.
but 2 plus guac.
Yeah, that's where I was at.
For very similar reasons to Amsterdam. It's just there are things in this movie that just flat don't work, and I don't. But in this case, the wounds are so self-inflicted and so easily avoidable that there is an absolute 4 taco movie here, but that would be easy to achieve. Whereas with Amsterdam, like, you'd have to do a full rewrite. With this, you just yank a few things out and it's fine. Like, it's just so
it was funny because I was still debating with myself probably about an hour before we went on because I was like, was it a 3? And I realized if you have to put this much thought into whether it was a 3, then it was 2 and guac.
Okay.
It wasn't 3. So 2 and guac for me as well.
Okay.
But an interesting
definitely
attempt.
Huge trigger warnings. Warnings.
Big time.
But
check it out.
If stories of trauma, feel any sort of like catharsis for you, or just you connect with them for whatever reason, it's a really interesting, compelling story of trauma on multiple levels. It's well acted, and there are good things here. So
I agree. All right, well, that brings us to our final film of the night, Paramount Plus original movie Significant Other. Mercifully only 84 minutes, only 77 of which is the film. So Paul, you brought this to me and I was kind of curious. I was curious, like, how did you find it? What made you think about it?
I actually did see an ad for this, and and after seeing an ad for it on that one page that we're on, somebody posted and said, hey, this is actually kind of pretty okay and worth the time spent. And so I was like, okay, well, if I have time on Monday, I'll check it out. And so I did. I had some time on Monday, so I checked it out.
Yeah, it very interesting premise. I'm not going to say it was I'm not going to say it was horrible. Interesting premise. The acting just really didn't do it for me. But
well, the acting's cheesy. Like I hear where you're coming from.
There were some interesting things. I'm not gonna fault this movie and call it horrible, but I was really glad. What it did well is it stayed to what it wanted to do. It got it done, and it got out. And by the time
the story is really interesting.
Yes, it is.
I genuinely was intrigued by the story. Like, they throw up a whole bunch of red herrings But you know that they're throwing up red herrings, but they're so obvious that you're like, oh, I definitely want to see where this is really
Right.
going.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
all right, and it's genuinely a scary movie. Like this movie genuinely has moments that for me I found to be genuinely scary.
Okay.
Like where it's dark in the woods. That's scary. Like if you've ever been in the woods, it can be a super scary situation,
Yeah.
and I thought this captured that.
But therein lies for me some of what was, I thought, um okay. Again, 84-minute running time with credits, 77 actual film. The reason I bring that up is because how many minutes or how much of that time, Paul,
Yeah.
was vistas?
I like that though.
Really?
I'm just gonna tell you, I am officially on board with just give me super high flying drone shots, because these are shots that we are just starting to pop up in the movies, and I wholeheartedly support. These are things that but in the past you would have needed a helicopter to do, but now
Sure, sure.
if you have a geek that knows how to fly a drone, you can get some really interesting fun
Okay.
shots.
But did it drive narrative or does it not
No,
matter?
that doesn't matter.
Okay, well, no,
It
see,
it doesn't drive narrative. It does drive atmosphere.
I just thought, okay, no, okay, I can give you atmosphere, but I was just after a while, I was like, I chuckled every time I knew there was going to be a transition because I'm like,
Yeah,
okay, here comes another 60 to 70 seconds of vistas,
I'm okay
and
with that. I like
yeah,
vistas.
okay, well, for me, not it doesn't do anything, but
Okay.
I don't know, it just became so noticeable in an
Yeah.
already short film that you wonder if you cut
Yeah.
a little bit of that out, you have an even shorter film. So,
Yeah.
but
And I
in the
love
end,
the. I fucking love the transition from Act 2 to Act 3. I loved it. It
yeah,
worked for me
okay.
100%, and it was
Yeah.
fantastic.
Again, there were some interesting things here. I knew we would kind of probably have some debate points on this film, which is why I wanted to finish with it.
Okay.
Because again, it's one of those movies that I would not even have known it was out there.
Yeah,
And when it was over, it was the last one I watched of all the ones we watched this week.
for sure.
And I was just like, okay, well, I don't feel horrible about it, but I don't feel like, And
It
so,
I will say this about it. First of all, it's the only one of the other three movies that absolutely accomplished exactly what it was trying to accomplish.
sure,
It's the
sure.
only one of the other movies that we've talked about, aside from obviously whatchamacallit, the alphabet movie, whose name is escaping me at the moment. Love and Monsters.
Love and Monsters, yeah.
It's the only one of the other movies that at the end of it, I was like, okay, that's exactly what I was expecting. That it wasn't exactly what I was expecting, but it did what it wanted to do,
Yeah.
and I
Very
appreciate that.
compact,
And
very, yeah.
I was genuinely entertained. If somebody said, "Hey, I need to watch one movie that came out this week, which one should I watch?" I would tell them Significant Other without
Okay.
batting a single eye. Like, no doubt. I would have no doubt I would give them Significant Other. Why? Because it's the only one of the four that I know could appeal to more than just a very, very, very limited audience.
Gotcha.
Like Hellraiser is going to appeal to just a very small segment of people. Similar for Amsterdam, similar for Luckiest Girl in the World. Whereas this, I could give it to just like, do people who like things that are kind of funny, dark comedy.
Yeah.
I could give it to people who like, like jump scare type of stuff. Like they're. I don't know. It was by far the best one of the four for me,
Cool.
and it's not even close. I don't know.
I love it.
Yeah.
I'm good. I'm not going to punish the movie for what I consider shortcomings, because again, it did a good job of not overstaying its welcome.
The dude is awesome in the third act. Like I know you're knocking the acting,
yeah,
but that dude was fucking awesome in the
Act
third
3
act.
was I'm not gonna disagree. Act 3 was great.
Yeah.
It was just and it's funny because now lately here I've had to think about Like, where's my mind? When I'm on the last film, right?
Yeah.
And that's where I want to be fair, because I am going to give this film three tacos.
Okay.
Again, I remember one of the things I was thinking when it was over was like, man, there are some titles out there that I wish they could have done this from a time standpoint and just stayed the mark. I'm not talking about movies this weekend, but
Sure.
like in life.
Yeah.
There are movies that if they would follow this formula of stick to what you're there for, man, they'd be so much more enjoyable.
Yeah.
So yeah, I got to give it 3 tacos.
I'm adding the guac.
Okay.
100% adding the guac. If you are enjoyable and then you just have a banging third act, you get the guac. You have earned the guac. Yeah. Just an absolute banger of a third act. So, yep.
Fantastic. All right. Well, who'd have thunk it? Paramount Plus coming through with the best movie of this week. So
for me.
All right. Well, one of the things that for myself, as we look forward toward the rest of the coming years, we still got some movies out there. Black Adam coming up. We said last week, Wakanda Forever. I hope people go to the theater.
Yep.
But next week we will be doing Netflix roulette. Paul, do we want to decide and then just surprise folks with what our topic ended up being?
No, let's. I think let somebody else decide what the topic it should be.
Okay, then we'll figure all that out.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, Paul, we come through another slate of films unscathed, I guess, and looking forward to more. So
for sure,
Paul, thank you as always for your insights. They are always awesome. So
big time.
All right, to all of you out there watching us, make sure you click on that subscribe button here on YouTube. Make sure you click the notification bell so that if you miss us live, you can always know when our episodes post. We thank you so much for the support, and we look forward to doing this for you for a long time to come. So keep on coming back. And remember, as we always say, you're awesome, you're amazing, and the world's a better place because you are in it. We'll see you next week. Have a great week, everybody. Good night.